Good evening, Fernwood. It is your freshly charged friend Neil here, and it's time for us to plug into a rerun season episode of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Last Friday in rerun season, we saw the reunion of Tom and Mary after a really gnarly fight. At the end of that fight, when things were really not resolved for either of their problems, Tom and Mary did have a passionate night that led to them sleeping together. That's literally all I'm going to give you because we're jumping a few weeks forward in time to episode 36 of the series. That's the start of week 8. Today we're going to meet a very special character who I think you may recognize. If you don't, I'll tell you who they are afterward. Let's do this thing and start episode 36, February 23rd, 1976.
Hi, I'm Luther Moon, Mabel and Elmer's boy. Maybe you can tell from this outfit I'm wearing that I'm one of the local trash men here in Fernwood, Ohio. At the moment, I'm picking up the trash at Mary Hartman's. Now, people usually look down on trash men, so that's why you may never see me on that TV show they're making about Mary Hartman. That's the one they call Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. By the way, how do you like that for a name? Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. They're not satisfied just to say it once. Anyway, us guys who collect trash probably know more about people than all the TV cameras do. The TV cameras have been poking around Fernwood for a lot of weeks. That's my job, too, poking around Fernwood. And I'll bet you, as a trash man, I know more about what's going on in people's lives around here than the cameras do. I don't know what all these are. Oh, looks like Kathy's got a new boyfriend. Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm speechless over you. I don't think a fortune teller or one of them high-priced international clairvoyants could tell you more about Kathy than I've been learning from these trash cans.
Mommy, sit down, please. Daddy is just going to love him, and so are you.
Has he got a job?
Yes, with good pay.
Now, if you were with them all that night and you didn't do anything you should be ashamed of, what did you do? Just talk?
Well, Steve doesn't talk much.
The strong, silent type, huh?
Not exactly.
Well, then what?
Well, actually, Steve doesn't talk at all.
How come?
He's dumb.
Well, he couldn't be any dumber than that Armenian bartender you went out with. He couldn't find his hands in his pockets. How come you go with such dumbbells?
Mom, not that kind of dumb. I mean, he's mute.
Doesn't talk, huh? Has to talk with his hands?
Life is too tough to tie yourself down to a man who's handicapped. How's he going to make a living? He'll be dependent on you for the rest of your life.
And you don't even have a job.
He has a job.
Raking leaves.
He's a gardener, and someday he's going to be a famous poet. Well, he is. They're thinking about publishing a book of his poetry right now in New York City.
Poems. Who reads poems, Kathy? You can't make money reading poems.
Daddy, they're really beautiful. If you would just read some of them.
I am not going to read any poems, and I love you, honey bun. And I don't want to discuss this any further.
Well, if you don't want to discuss it, just get yourself another honey bun.
Now, listen,
The point is, Mary, that just because Steve has a tiny little handicap, like not being able to hear or speak, Daddy thinks he's a total loss.
Daddy just hasn't gotten to know Steve, that's all. I mean, you have to get to know Steve. Is that good? Do you think he really likes you?
Yes, Mary. Look, I really love Steve. I've been going out with him for 3 weeks. 3 wonderful weeks, which is longer than I've gone out with any boy in my entire life.
Oh, Kathy. Look, I mean, I'm going to say something that's going to sound really terrible right now, but I don't know Steve either. I mean, here we've been sitting here, and I've been talking only to you. I haven't said a thing to him. I mean, not one word.
More poems? I make you feel like writing poetry? Oh. Steve, you don't know how you make me feel. I just can't describe it. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hi, King.
Oh, hello, sweetheart.
Mwah! This is the most glorious day in my life.
Well, how come?
Last night I was with Steve for the first time, and it was fabulous.
I don't think I want to hear this. I don't want to hear about any of this.
But, Daddy, look.
I don't want to hear about it.
He was fabulous?
He was fabulous.
Well, what did he do that made him fabulous? How's the cake, Dad?
Fabulous.
Good.
Well, it's not what he did. It's what he is.
What is he?
Well, he's different. And he's a deaf mute.
Oh, and that makes him fabulous?
No, Mary, you don't understand. You see, when a person loses two of their senses, their other senses are heightened. And Steve's senses are so heightened that it was fabulous.
Oh, please, girls, remember me. I'm the father with a bad heart.
Yeah, have some coffee, Dad.
And guess what else?
What?
Come on, Daddy, I want you to hear this too.
Thanks.
They want to publish Steve's poetry.
In a book?
Publishers in New York City. Isn't that fabulous?
Oh, Kathy, we're not going to get into that again, are we?
But he's going to be famous and rich.
Rich from writing poetry? Kathy, poetry is junk.
They are not junk.
Kathy, I'm much older than you, and I've seen junk, and when I see junk, I know junk. Now, he's not going to get rich, and he's not going to do a thing for you. Don't you realize I'm doing this because I love you?
And I hate you. And I never want to speak to you again for as long as we both shall live.
Oh, happy days. Oh, this is great. Every man in this town is sitting having his breakfast reading his newspaper, except me. I have to read a letter from a guy who wants to steal my daughter and break my heart.
You feel such sweet feelings, George, but for all of the wrong reasons.
This guy has got to be out of his skull. Do you know what this letter says?
What?
He wants my blessings for his marriage to Kathy. Oh, good. Now he wants me to answer his letter.
Write a polite answer, George. Be nice.
Oh, I'll be nice.
I don't like what's going on in this house. Kathy isn't speaking to George. George is acting like he's going to kill Steve.
Martha, how do you spell snowball? Is that one word or two?
Snowball?
Yeah, like you got as much chance as a snowball in hell.
Oh, well, I'm in Mary Hartman. I'm poking around in the trash. By the way, I hope you folks won't think ill of me for poking around in other people's trash. I mean, whatever line of work you're in, I'm sure you find some ways to make your work more interesting. Like if you're in the service business, you aggravate people just for the kick of watching their blood boil. If you're a professional man, you do your best to overcharge. At least you give it a good try. Well, the only way a trash man can have fun is just to poke around a little. I found this little guitar pick. Like this, see? It's a worn one. Loretta Haggers is probably over here playing for her friend. And I'll tell you something. The way those Haggers throw things away around here, there are no, and I mean no, secrets.
That was Dr. Furman. You're pregnant.
No.
Yes. And he says on account of all your miscarriages and all, you got to get a lot of rest and just take it easy.
Well, that settles it.
What?
We're gonna go to Nashville by the end of the week.
We're off, run away, Nashville. Here we
I
come.
got the Vega packed up to the gills. We're all gassed up. We're raring to go.
My love can have my body. I'm glad he finds it fun. but no one else can touch it unless he's got a gun.
I love it. I love it. It's got a great beat.
Great.
Honey, you sure you wouldn't like just a little shut-eye, you know? I mean, on account of you being pregnant and all.
Oh, baby boy, stop babying me. Save that for the baby.
Yeah, you really are an artist. I mean, you talking poetry even when you don't mean to. Listen. I want you to do me a favor.
What?
Just close up your eyes. Curl right up. Put your head here on my shoulder. And just try to get a little shut-eye.
Well, okay, maybe I will sleep just a teensy little bit.
Two charged suitcases.
I don't care about the suitcases.
Picnic hamper.
I don't. Tell me about the demonstration record.
Oh, that's right. Your wife is a singer down at the Rosemont.
Greatest little country and western singer in the.
Yeah, there's
We were
also
on our way to Nashville.
a toolkit in there someplace.
I don't care about the toolkit. What about the demonstration record?
No, I don't see those listed here.
But they've got to be listed here. I mean, that's our whole future. I mean, I sunk every cent we had in them.
No, I'm sorry. No, I don't believe. Oh, wait. The officer on the scene did say that he did find some lump of plastic on the back seat. I don't think they brought that in, unless that's it.
That's 6 cuts of country and western. That's our whole future.
Why? Because I seem to have gotten the pregnancy tests mixed up.
What does that mean?
It's Mrs. Ferguson that's having the baby.
What about my wife?
Your wife just had a fibroid tumor.
Well, of course she's going to live.
But it's very possible that she will never be able to walk again.
Honey, I got some terrific news.
Oh, I got some too.
You do?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you go first.
Dr. Hastings says that I can get out of the hospital tomorrow.
Hot damn, and it's about time, too.
Yes, but I
You
also
haven't heard
told...
my news. You haven't heard my news?
What is it?
Derelda Doremus is coming to town.
Charlie, Derelda Doremus, I can't believe it. When's she going to be here?
Look, honey, read it. It's a full-page ad. Look, see, KNSU right here in Fernwood. She's going to do her show on Friday.
Who is Derelda Doremus?
You never heard of her? She's only the greatest preacher and evangelical healer this side of the Rockies is all.
Golden voice, servant of the Lord.
This is about that faith healer, Derelda Doremus.
What, the one that Loretta thinks is going to cure?
Uh-huh. Uh-oh.
What's it say?
Oh, boy.
Well, what is it?
Oh, Tom. Oh, Tom, this is awful. Do you know who she is? She's the former Irma Perlmutter of Erasmus High School from Brooklyn, New York.
Derelda Doremus?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what?
Tom, what kind of a God person would change her name from Irma Perlmutter to Derelda Doremus?
Well, faith is truly important in our lives, Mary. And I sure wish you and Tom would join Charlie and me at Derelda Doremus' TV show tomorrow night. We got 4 tickets.
I thought the revival meeting was next week.
Oh, no, that's a tent revival. See, this is her live television show. Will y'all come?
Tomorrow night's our doubles bowling night.
Mary Hartman, hon, what is more important? Rolling a bowling ball down an alley or rolling your soul on the road to heaven?
I'll ask Tom. Are we going to go see Derelda Doremus' TV show with Loretta and Charlie?
Derelda Doremus is a fake. I mean, you read it yourself in that magazine, all those hallelujahs and laying on of hands and all those miraculous cures. It's as phony as her name.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way, too. But Loretta has faith in her. You know what they say, faith can move mountains.
Mary, Dorelda Doremus will not move Loretta out of that wheelchair.
I suppose by now, seeing what a fellow like me learns about people, you're all thinking of getting into the trash business. Well, I'll tell you something my father told me a long time ago. Shoemaker, he said, stick to your last. I don't know why he always called me Shoemaker. He should have known our name was Moon even way back then. This business is a heck of a lot less simple than it seems to be. I mean, when you're sifting around through other people's throwing away things, you better be profound. I mean, when you run across this thing, this old photograph of Tom Hartman, you better know the people who live here before you start trying to guess what their problems are. I've been at this a long time, and I can tell you from the state of this photograph, that Mary has been having some personal problems.
How the hell can a man make love to a woman in a situation like this? How?
But I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about 8 weeks ago, Tom. It is so humiliating to have to keep bringing up why you don't want me. That is so humiliating, I can't tell you.
Why the hell do you keep hanging on to 8 weeks ago when we're here now? Why? You think that's humiliating?
What do you mean we're here now? What do you mean the reason I'm bringing up 8 weeks ago, Tom, is because that's how long I've been waiting patiently. I've been waiting for 8 weeks.
I had a wonderful time last night.
You had 2 wonderful times last night. 2.
That's right.
And 3 if you count in the shower.
I sure do.
Wouldn't you like to see me? Alone, in private?
Yes, I would. It's just that, I mean, that's what's confusing to me. You see, I'm having certain upsetting marital difficulties. Are we being bugged now or anything like that?
No.
Oh, good, because I just thought, it's a police station. I can't see you while I'm having these marital difficulties because the difficulties are making me very emotionally upset.
Mayor Linsky.
What about her?
Well, her name is written here in her phone number. Oh, but you probably got that the other night at the recording session, didn't you?
No.
Oh, well then, who would have written her number here?
I know you know about May, okay?
Who?
The matchbook cover. Loretta told me.
Tom, I'm sorry, I really don't know what you're talking about. He does that sometimes.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Look, Mary, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just one of those things. I had a lot of things to think over. You understand that?
Yeah, I understand that.
Well, why couldn't he think them over at home?
Honey, I needed to be alone. You understand?
Well, why couldn't he think them over at home, then? He was alone at home. What'd you do? You had to go and meet the matchbook cover there?
Oh, honey, I have been so worried. I've been shaking like a line of laundry in a hot wind, and I wrote a song about it and everything. You can't believe all the people in town that was here. Everybody was, and including, who from the payroll department. But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, do you want me to sing my song for you?
May was here?
Uh-huh.
May Linsky?
Mary!
Because our marriage is over.
Mary!
I told you I know about May.
Look, the thing about May is really not
I
anything...
don't ever want that name mentioned in my house.
Well, it's very important. Can you come over now?
No way.
What are you doing?
I'm busy.
Well, when can you come over?
I don't know.
Tomorrow?
He left something.
What do you mean you left something?
Well, that he left something.
Well, what do you mean by that? He left something?
I guess you guys call it a case.
You mean VD? He left VD?
Yeah.
I mean, I was with May after Frank Garth was with May.
Yeah.
Well, that means that May gave me the venereal disease.
Oh, Tom. No wonder you haven't been feeling well.
Yeah. And Mary, there's something else, too, I gotta tell you.
What?
Last night,
Yeah.
when I was with you, I gave it to you.
Mary, what in the world is going on? I just saw Tom pass by the house with 2 suitcases, and then he went into the Haggers' house.
Look, Ma, I don't feel like talking. I'll just tell you one thing, and then I'm going to hang up, so I'll say goodbye now. Goodbye, Ma. Tom has moved out, and he's going to live with Charlie.
I just don't know what else to say.
Well, you could say you made a terrible mistake.
I made a terrible mistake.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Well, all I can say is that, as far as I'm concerned, you can have Tom if you want him.
Do you really mean that?
Yes, I do. You see, I don't want him anymore, and there's no sense in letting him go to waste.
Are you sure you can't forgive him? Are you sure you really want to give him up? Are you really, really sure?
Yes. 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 I'm sure.
To my wife. My best friend. My companion. The woman I love.
Oh, Tom. That's so beautiful.
As you can see, there's just about nothing going on in Fernwood, Ohio that I don't know about. If there is, it damn well isn't showing up in the trash. For you folks who like to watch television, let me tell you something about trash collectors. You can keep the comedies. We like the serious stuff. Here's one of the serious moments I like best. Thank you, and good night.
And that there is Luther Moon. When I first saw this episode, I don't know how many months ago, I screamed, "This is a clip show!" I don't think we see clip shows nowadays. Like, in the modern television era, I don't feel like I've seen a clip show since the 90s, maybe? Like, other than a rerun clip show, but like an authentic, recently shot clip show. I don't think they make them anymore. If they do, they're sort of tongue-in-cheek, like not quite really episode bits. And, for this episode, there definitely were things that were not in the series. There were scenes that were shot specifically for the clip show. I'm not sure when they would have shot them, but, I think this was a good catching back up point because there are some big things coming this week. But we got to see Kathy and Steve, kind of their whole story get told, in brief, and we get to see Charlie and Loretta go through the leaving town, getting in the car accident, in the hospital. Maybe she's not going to be able to walk. Oh no, where are the demo tapes? And we see Tom and Mary, and a little bit of it was out of order, so basically they got back together, and yeah, there's still a scare. There's a VD scare. VDs 10 years or 20 years later would start to be called STDs, and this venereal disease is never named. And I believe at this point, as the show shows, Mary was getting tested. There was a scene with Mary getting tested and May meeting her, and I believe after that test it was made clear that there was no actual infection, but it still was a pretty big wedge between Tom and Mary. And of course things get confusing, and then Tom makes the effort to come back in that one little scene. And Tom is occasionally pretty awful to Mary. And occasionally very sweet to Mary. And maybe more often awful than sweet. But Mary has a very deep connection or a deep association, you know. They've been married for so many years. I don't think you just throw that away. As many people would suggest. Kevin Johnson, one of our commenters, suggested that Tom and Mary really do not know how to talk to each other. And I agree. Tom and Mary really have no tools for communication. They just don't know how. Tom reacts based on his buttons getting pushed, which triggers an anger response from him. And his button is pretty deep and something that he still hasn't quite found a way to address. And some of the rerun season episodes, we've looked at him looking for a way to resolve that, but not finding it. There are still some story beats in the intervening episodes between now and later that may address that, but you know, things are rough for Tom. I'm not forgiving Tom for being awful to Mary. He is horrible to Mary. Mary, on the other hand, doesn't know how not to press on the trigger. And I'm not saying that Mary can't have that very important point of view, and her frustration and all of the emotions that she has are valid if she only understood how she was triggering Tom. That would make a huge difference. And to me, I think where some of our commenters like Kevin Johnson suggests that they should get a counselor, that's what I feel like they need, but they don't do it together. So when Tom offers to bring Mary to counseling, she says no. And when, well, I don't want to get ahead of where we are in rerun season, but let's just say their searches for help have been pretty fruitless. And they lead to where the rest of the season will go, and I don't want to spoil that. But there's a lot of... I wish that they did have a counselor. I wish that they did have vocabulary for... I wish that Tom would say, I need time to emotionally process the thing that you are saying before I respond to you. I wish Mary would say the same thing, although Mary doesn't really ever admit whatever is going on with her. Like, that is just the common thread of Mary's behavior, and probably for good reason, but that's the difficulty, and that's what leads to where Mary goes in this show. And finally, I'm just going to share that I love the meta element of the junk man, Luther Moon, and how he learned about all of this stuff by looking through people's garbage. It would make me feel a little bit paranoid to think that someone was searching through my garbage and learning about my life. Ah, well, I guess you can't protect them all. That's all I've got to share about the clip show today. Thank you so much for sharing your feelings, thoughts, and impressions down in the comments. Today, during rerun season, I want to shine the light on a show that is really special to me. It is WandaVision, available on Disney+. It is a superhero show, but it is a tribute as well to decades of sitcom history, starting all the way back in the 1950s, all the way to, I'm not going to tell you when because I hate to spoil things. Everyone, this is a show that has a lot going on in it, and I will say that some of it won't really even be apparent to you until you rewatch it. It is a deep show that addresses things that you don't notice right away, or maybe you start to pick them up. There's a lot of feelings going on in the show, and I'm going to recommend it. And right here is where I'm going to put that card so you can find it later. Thank you so much for plugging in with me, everyone. Tomorrow, we're going to go a little bit in the future, but not too far. I'm not going to tell you exactly where. Thank you again, though, for showing up, plugging in, getting recharged. We will see you tomorrow night in Fernwood.